Welcome to Season 5, Episode 11 of the Family Travel Australia podcast. We are Paul, Katie and Jasper from the Feel Good family. Join us as we explore this great country, Australia, its people, places and cultures.
Yes, welcome to the Family Travel Podcast, where we share the latest in RV industry news, road trip travel, caravanning, camping, product reviews, where to go, where to stay, what to do, and so much more. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you indeed. This week we travel over 300 kilometres in Tasmania's heartland from Hobart to Devonport, including Hobart's #1 adventure tour, the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery, historic villages of Oatlands, Ross, Richmond and Longford, a visit to the Pooseum.
The Pooseum?
That's right, the Pooseum. We visit some World Heritage listed estates and some fantastic free and paid camping. And in the newsroom, we're talking about personal safety in the Outback.
Yes, another jam-packed episode and the last of our road trips here in beautiful Tasmania.
Wow, it's hard to believe. I mean, we've actually been in the state 3 months. We've been able to accomplish 8 itineraries.
This place is amazing. I mean, honestly, we say it time and time again, but the more you explore in Tassie, the more you are going to want to come back and delve deeper. There is just so much, so many campgrounds and so many amazing places.
A quick plug, actually, for next week's episode. We'll be bringing you the Tasmanian special, the wrap-up, the best of the best, everything that we have absolutely loved in one jam-packed episode, including the apps, maps, resources, everything we use to build our itineraries and to make those decisions on where to go, what to do, what to see, what to eat, what to drink, etc.
Where to stay, exactly.
And on the back end of that, we'll also include our top 10 tips for travelling over on the Spirit of Tasmania, what you need to know before you go.
Absolutely. A really comprehensive Tassie in one episode. So if you are planning a trip to Tassie, you'll love this one. And if you're not planning a trip to Tassie, start planning a trip to Tassie.
Yeah, get on and book, make a date, make it happen.
Awesome.
All right, this week, our last drive itinerary, it is awesome. It's probably one of the drive itineraries that a lot of people bypass because they're going to the really well-promoted, well-advertised, more popular areas. But I tell you what, there is so much to see and do in the heartlands.
Oh, absolutely. And it ticks so many boxes. I mean, the environment is stunning. There is so much history. They actually call part of this journey the Heritage Highway, and that is because you are going to be immersed in some of Australia's earliest settlement history, convicts, just tales and stories from hundreds of years ago. So that is awesome as well. And then there's a great blend of things to do, of places to go. So it really does tick a lot of boxes.
Yeah, look, I think that a lot of the reason why people miss this is because there are so many national parks that fringe this entire area.
Yes.
It's almost like this drive journey is completely surrounded by World Heritage listed national parks.
Yes, amazing.
Amazing. All right, let's get into it. We're actually going to start from Hobart, and we wanted to mention the campground that we stayed at because it's not directly in Hobart. In fact, it's in a little place called Sorel, 28 kilometres northeast of Hobart, an easy 20-25 minutes drive, and at $8 a night, there's a dump point. You can fill up with fresh water. Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, look, it really is. And let's be honest, there's nothing fancy about this campground. It basically is a big lot that has sites marked out really clearly on them. It can accommodate very big rigs. There was some huge buses there while we stayed, campers of all different kinds. But what is so good about this campground is that it makes the perfect place to leave your van safely while you go out and explore during the days. It's not one of those campgrounds, I think, that you'd sit around all day and just enjoy the serenity. It is a campground for you to get out, Get into Hobart, explore. Look, there are a number of caravan parks between Sorell and the city of Hobart. However, this would be our number one choice. If you did want to get in and have a few days in and around Hobart, leave your van here safely during the day, come back, $8 a night, laughing.
Absolute bargain. And it is monitored by the local RSL club and Lions Club. So it's well maintained. There's actually a free barbecue area as well that's covered. There's a very large off-leash dog exercise area.
That's
so
right. It's pet friendly.
Bring your pets.
Absolutely. And everything you need. I mean, Sorell in itself, you could easily walk into town from the campground. Otherwise, it's a maybe 2-minute drive into the local shopping centre to pick up your supplies. And that drive into Hobart is so beautiful because it basically follows the waterfront the entire way into the city. So that even adds to the experience.
I just love how close it is. And to be honest, a couple of the other caravan parks don't get the best reviews. We can't vouch for them. But anyway, $8 a night, fantastic.
Can't beat it.
All right, into Hobart, we're taking you into Constitution Dock, Sullivan's Cove.
Yes.
I mean, Salamanca Markets, the boats, the harbour here is absolutely stunning. There is a plethora of seafood, dining, restaurants, cafes, takeaways to choose from. We visited Muir's last time we were there, a family-owned and operated business, one of the most famous seafood institutions here in Tassie. They also have a little side restaurant there called Pearl & Co., which we decided to give a go and absolutely loved.
Yeah, it was fantastic. A really beautiful spot for lunch. Look, I love Hobart. This city is not only beautifully laid out, but just about everywhere you are in the city, you have a water view. And so sitting in Pearl & Co., this little restaurant out on the wharf, you're literally looking through the floor-to-ceiling glass windows and doors out onto all of the fishing boats and all of the boats that are docked here in this little cove, Sullivan's Cove. Then in the background, you have all of the heritage buildings that are now pubs, restaurants, accommodation options. And then if you just look the other way, you've got amazing Mount Wellington that rises up, towers over the city. So Hobart, just picture perfect. No matter where you are in Hobart, you have a stunning view. And Pearl & Co. was a great option, family friendly, great prices as far as being a premium seafood dining experience in the city. We loved having some beautiful fresh seafood for lunch, a glass of local Tassie wine. You can't beat that.
Look, that is the point of difference, I think, for Hobart as a capital city here in Australia, is that Mount Wellington as a backdrop immediately at the city's edge.
It is absolutely gorgeous.
All right, from there we headed over to TMAG.
Yes, like literally across the road to the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery. I was actually really very pleasantly surprised by this experience. We had been tipped off by a number of Tassie locals to make sure that we headed over there, especially with Jasper, which, you know, some people would question taking a 5-year-old to a museum and an art gallery. Is that really that fun? This place caters for families, kids of every age. It's free.
Love it.
You know, go and just experience this. It's free and it is amazing.
I think what is amazing about these state run galleries and museums, yes, they're free. They spend millions of dollars on these exhibits and these exhibitions. And for all of us as a family, you just can't help but walk out being more enriched, you know?
Absolutely. That is spot on, Paul. And the only downside to our visit, I feel, is that we left it quite late in the afternoon. We headed over after lunch. We could have easily spent double the amount of time that we did there exploring the different exhibitions. They've recently installed a new children's interactive exhibition catered for the littlest family members, and Jasper absolutely love that, getting hands-on, exploring. The highlight for us, though, I think, was the Antarctic exhibition on the upper level. That was just
So
fascinating.
cool. They had a model of Australia's new icebreaker up there that was completely built by one man over 12 months out of Lego.
Amazing. So super cool. And just really interactive, very cool, informative things. We all loved it. When we told Jasper we were leaving, he was like, oh.
Well, we were actually the last ones to leave. They were shutting
Pushing us
down
out the
galleries, switching off lights. We were like, oh, okay, we can't stay. No worries. Look, the more, I guess, popular or famous museum just on the outskirts of Hobart there is the Mona Art Gallery. The two themes that run through that entire gallery are death and sex. So probably not the right one for a young family. It looks incredible. We would love to have done that, jumped on one of their ferries and had the ride down through the harbour. And look, we can't vouch for it, but everyone that we speak to absolutely raves about this place and what this particular guy has done. He makes it free for anyone who is a Tasmanian, and then there is a fee for visitors outside of the state, but that literally goes to upkeep, paying staff wages, etc. So it's a pretty incredible experience. You could check that out, Mona.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, David Walsh. That'll be on our list for next visit, perhaps.
Yeah, in a few years.
Yes.
All right, we're going to head out of Hobart to what we refer to after this experience as our number one highlight of our time in the Hobart region, and that was to join a tour with Andy, one of the most passionate, enthusiastic environmentalist and geologist biologist as well, that you would ever meet. He runs a business called Walk on Kununyi. Mount Wellington is now officially named after the Indigenous local language groups have decided to use the name Kununyi. So it's Kununyi Mount Wellington.
Now, what is so amazing about Mount Wellington, aside from the fact that it basically towers over the city, is that it is accessible. You can drive in your own vehicle all the way to the summit, which is really cool. And that is what the majority of tourists to Hobart would do. You know, it is one of those must-do things. Getting out with Andy on his tour was so awesome because not only did we drive to the summit and have that, you know, that Titanic moment, I'm the king of the world, but we got to immerse ourselves in the mountain. The tour that we joined Andy on was called In Charles Darwin's Footsteps, and it was a fantastic half-day tour with only 2 very short walks, perfect for families. We actually retraced the steps that Charles Darwin took when he first attempted to climb Mount Wellington.
Back in 1836.
Absolutely incredible. We literally stood where he had been, which was fascinating. And Andy, of course, with all of his passion and his wealth of knowledge, sharing that with us and excerpts from Charles Darwin's diaries, it just made this so incredible. The environment speaks for itself. It is absolutely spectacular. What makes Mount Wellington so special is the diversity of the environments, and it basically goes from rainforest and then woodland to alpine at the top. It literally dropped 10 degrees when we got to the summit, which was incredible. The wind was almost too strong for us to stand up. So we had a whole array of experiences jam-packed into this short half-day tour with Andy. Absolute highlight for our time in Hobart.
Yeah, look, as you mentioned, he does a number of tours. There is one called the Sea to the Summit, 18 kilometres. You walk up and then you get a lift down. I mean, that is a full day tour. It commences at 8 a.m. from the harbour and off you go. I think it would be so enjoyable because you're with Andy, who was born on the mountain. He's part of the mountain, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
You know, it is one of those experiences I think that will only, I think, be more popular because every time someone experiences this, they rave about it.
Oh, we are still talking about it, and in the days after it, we just kept reliving those moments. And then when Andy told us this, or he showed us this, so it really is an excellent tour, and a perfect example of a young Aussie. He's a young dad, got a young family, passionate, so passionate about his backyard, he called it, and giving it a go, creating this business because he wants to share this with other people. Just love it, love supporting that.
Walk on Kununyi. We will put the details for that tour in the description, or you can visit our website, thefeelgoodfamily.com, to find out a little bit more of that and watch the full episode on our Feel Good Family YouTube channel.
Awesome.
All right, after our tour, we had actually been tipped off by Andy to make a booking at Cascade Brewery, which is where he met us.
Yes.
To then drive us around and hop on and off in that tour, which was the other highlight.
Yes.
I didn't have to drive.
Yes.
And Cascade Brewery is a fantastic option for lunch, but it is so busy. You do want to make a booking.
Yeah, you do. And the reason you want to go here is not only is it nestled in the foothills of Mount Wellington, so you can see that in the background, it's Australia's oldest operating brewery. It is just beautiful. They have incredible gardens there that you can wander through. Nothing better than stopping and having a bite to eat or a refreshing ale after being up on the mountain.
Fantastic. Okay, we are going to leave Hobart and we're heading, again, only 30 minutes. It's about 10 minutes drive, actually, past Sorell, to one of Tasmania's most famous heritage villages. It is Richmond. It is famous because it has the oldest continuous in use bridge in Australia, built in 1823.
By convicts.
Yeah, you can even tow your van across it.
Yes, which we did.
Yes. The oldest Catholic church in Australia. I think it's the oldest Presbyterian church in Australia.
Right.
And one of the oldest jails, the Richmond Jail. One of the coolest things about the jail is that in 1832 they had an inmate in there who was shipped out from the Old Bailey in 1830. He arrived at Richmond Jail in 1832. Transportation, or basically, for stealing a loaf of bread. He was sentenced, I think, to 7 years. His name was Isaac Solomon. And this guy was a purveyor of stolen goods. So he used to receive stolen goods and ship them out. And anyway, I think he got actually busted by stealing a loaf of bread.
An entrepreneur.
Look, you could call it that. Pretty tragic, the result of his punishment. But Charles Dickens, who was the writer of the novel Oliver, or Oliver Twist, actually based the character of Fagin, if you remember that guy, one of my favourites, you've got to pick a pocket or two, boy, on Isaac Solomon.
Very cool.
Yeah, so, so great to visit these places and find out these little stories. So rich, the history.
It is, and Richmond is very rich with history, and even the main street, just beautiful. And, those sandstone Georgian buildings that have been so incredibly well preserved and maintained. You literally feel like you're stepping back in time. You could spend a whole day walking up and down the main street of Richmond. It is full of beautiful cafes and restaurants. There's a great pub or two, lovely stores and boutiques to meander through. A highlight for us last time we visited Richmond was stopping in at Old Hobart Town, which is the miniature, the model village of Hobart. Well worth a visit, an incredible labour of love.
Yes, Andrew Quick was the co-creator there. And again, another one of these stories of a passionate person using their skill and their creativity to create and share their interests through this kind of experience. It's very unique. There's nothing else like it in Australia. Go and see this experience, this tour. Go and do it if you're in Richmond. Absolutely.
And then you and Jasper had a really unique experience this time around in Richmond as well.
Yes, we did visit the Pooseum. It is basically a science museum, I think would be the best way to describe this, that presents everything that you would want to know and probably not want to know about poo. Yes. In fact, their slogan says, an education on defecation. It is incredibly interactive, which sounds surprising.
and a little bit icky.
And you kind of first think, oh, it's all going to be toilet humour. It is absolutely not that. I mean, of course, there's the odd fart joke and you can press and hear different fart sounds and whatever, which Jasper thought was hysterical. But it was incredibly interesting, and again, just to see that someone could create this museum around poo and it become a success was quite intriguing, very interactive and very educational. We both left there going, wow. Like, for instance, did you know that the city of Logan in Queensland is powered by poo?
Did not.
No,
amazing.
That's right. Incredible. Anyways, lots of fun to be had in there. And if you have got the younger ones, you know, who doesn't like a good poo or
joke.
A fart joke. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's move on from that. We're now travelling a little bit further up the road to Outlands.
Yes, again, another incredible historic village on this Heartlands journey. Outlands, it was just amazing. Again, the amount of buildings that have survived the test of time and are still in their original form, that you can wander the main street and take it in. It is literally a village frozen in time.
Do you know, it made me just think why Tasmania is so well preserved compared to mainland Australia in a lot of ways. I think is because of such a slow, gradual population growth. So development and the need to knock things down and put new things up wasn't there as it has happened around our major city centres in Australia. So you have this incredible, you cannot believe every town you drive through, oh, wow, look at this, small Georgian buildings that are perfectly preserved. And I think that through that process, a lot of people have appreciated and valued the stories that are able to be kept and survive through significant buildings like this. The history is alive because people have realised very early on this is part of our story that needs to be told as the generations, come through.
Absolutely, and really special. And you don't have to be a history buff to appreciate or be awed by how incredible these villages are. Outlands is definitely one to put on your list. We stayed at a fantastic free, however, they do like you to make a donation if you feel the need, a free camp based right opposite the lake in Outlands and next door to the Callington Mill, which in itself, photographer's dream. I absolutely loved walking around the grounds of the historic Callington Mill, which was in the process when we visited of being restored and reopened as a new whiskey distillery. So if you are headed to Tasmania and you're going to Outlands, definitely go and check out the Callington Mill Distillery. It looks incredible.
Yep.
The free camp was great, huge paddock, cater for rigs of any size. As we said, make a donation, whatever you see fit. Those donation monies go towards the maintenance and keeping this place open. They had barbecues, shelters, rubbish removal facilities. We saw the volunteers coming around and doing some maintenance, removing the rubbish while we were there. So a great overnighter.
Yeah, it really is. There's no power, obviously, no water hookups. There's no dump point, and it is free, and really it's up to you if you want to make a donation. We put in $10 and we put the call out there to ask, what do you think? Is that enough? When we look at our places that we visited around Tassie that have dump point power, or dump point water, they generally ask for about $10 a night. And so anyway, we put our $10 in. Bob out there told us we were stingy. Thanks,
look,
Bob.
we had mixed reports.
We might be stingy, Bob.
We had some people who said, yep, that's awesome. That's what we put in. We had others who said we put in, $5 a night for these sorts of camps. We had people like lovely Bob who said, no, you guys are being a bit stingy.
Whatever, Bob. Just want to put it out there. No, kidding.
So it's interesting, what people see is an appropriate amount for these sorts of places. I think, and I'm of the mind of, whatever you feel is appropriate for you, what you can afford, all of those sorts of things come into play. I think as long as you're putting something into these places, giving a little bit more than you take. And let's be honest, we didn't really take anything from our stay here in Outlands because it is unpowered. There was no water hookups. We literally rolled in, had a lovely night camping with some friends of ours. The kids played next door on the amazing playground, one of the best in Tasmania we've ever seen. But as far as us taking from this site, I'd say it was very limited. So
I think next time we will put in $15. Is that okay, Bob?
You're funny. Let Bob go, Del. It's okay.
No, maybe it is, But anyway, let us know. We would love to know what you think. And if we disagree with you, then we'll let you know. All right, moving on from Outlands, we're heading up to Longford. Now, the real reason I think you would visit Longford is because they have 2 World Heritage listed properties here, Woolmer's Estate and Brickenden Estate, in the 7th generation, family-owned, better preserved and frozen in time than any other property we had seen, as far as everything is intact, even the furnishings, the buildings. It is its own micro village owned by one family since it was created and built through a government scheme that encouraged convicts to pay their way through their their labour, their punishment. They could go and work on these estates to help the settlement, help build the progress of the economy, and then they were granted freedom after the place was established and built.
If they were good.
If they were good, that's right. And Brickenden and Woolmer's estates became known as a really favourable place to go if you were a convict. They were very good masters, so they say.
Yes, absolutely. And fascinating, Brickenden, 7 generations on, and they've opened the doors for people to be able to come in and experience this environment and learn all of the fascinating history and hear the stories and immerse themselves in this environment. They form the World Heritage properties here in Australia for the convict properties. And as you said, Paul, amazing examples of what life was like back then. Brickenden in particular, with its farm animals, really fantastic if you're a travelling family, you've got younger children. We picked up some feed. The boys, we were travelling with some friends of ours also from the Gold Coast who are full-time on the road. The boys loved feeding the ducks and the chickens and the steer, and there were donkeys and sheep, and the absolute standout, Aggie, the pig, who sat when she was told to before she got her meal, which was just amazing. So a really beautiful environment, just to go and be, and the boys had a great time. Across the road, their heritage gardens are a must visit if you are heading out to Brickenden. Like stepping into an old English
manor with the gardens, a little bit Alice in Wonderland-esque.
So beautiful. Pack a picnic, go and make the most of your time out there.
Look, Woolmer's is only 4 kilometres down the road. It is, again, an incredible representation of this period, early 1800s through the 19th century, how well it has been managed and preserved. We felt as a family, if you really do have kids and you're wanting to have more of an interactive experience and you're going to choose one or the other, because, these experiences do start to add up, choose Brickenden.
Yeah.
And again, it was probably made even better because of Chris, the lovely lady who met us at the front desk and then walked us through the property, with the bucket of feed and this absolute entourage of animals
chasing after her.
Yes, she was like the Pied Piper.
Yes, no, that is good advice. If you are into your gardens, then Woolmer's also houses the National Rose Garden. And that in itself is a really beautiful experience to walk through. And they have recently developed quite an incredible restaurant and cafe and visitor centre on site that you can go to the cafe for lunch without even walking out onto the estate if you wish.
Probably not really suited to families.
No.
We went there with the boys and it was a little bit highbrow.
Yes. One of those places that you don't really want your children to speak or move, but beautiful in itself.
Excellent. All right. From there, look, we will also just quickly mention the caravan park that we stayed at was a full hookup experience. We ended up on a riverfront site, beautiful caravan site there.
So that is the Longford Riverside Caravan Park. I think for that riverside site, it was $45 a night, as you said, with your full hookups. I mean, just fantastic because of how beautiful it was. Big green grassy stretch for the kids to play.
And on Tasmania'S sort of cost ladder, it would be one of the more expensive sites. If you put that against the mainland cost, it was very good value, but really, for that sort of beautiful environment, massive green lawns for the kids to run around, it was fantastic.
Absolutely, and puts a little bit more into perspective the $10 in Outlands. Sorry, I did have to go back to that, Bob, but when you look at the cost of what we got at Longford.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. We're going to now take you up to Devonport. We're about to board the Spirit of Tasmania. Look, we can rave about Mersey Bluff Caravan Park.
Which we have done in previous podcasts and YouTube episodes.
We wanted to do something different and we decided to return to Turner's Beach, the berry patch, because we had been there as our very, very first stop back in 2020. But we hadn't camped there. Well, we drove around the campsite last time and we had breakfast at the berry patch and then we continued on to Stanley. Well, this time we thought, let's make this our lasting impression. Let's really check this out. Well, they have improved the campgrounds. It's been landscaped. There is plenty of room for everyone. A short 3-4 minute walk down to the berry patch. Absolutely fantastic. And Turner's Beach, I chucked the drone up, is only a couple of 100 metres that way. Beautiful setting and, oh gosh, I don't know, I'm going to say 12 minutes from door to door to the ship.
Yes, absolutely. And just while we're on price, $10 a night for the Turner Beach Berry Patch Campground with access to water from just about every site so that you can fill your tanks and refill your tanks as required. Great space for the kids to run and play. There was quite a lot of families staying there actually, local Tasmanian families. It was a long weekend and so they came and set up, and in speaking with some of them, they mentioned to us, we only live 10 minutes up the road, but it's a long weekend. We wanted to get away. This is a great spot for us to do this. And the Berry Patch Cafe down the road, fantastic.
So good.
A suite of local Tassie produce and products, delicious treats from the cafe. We picked up some chocolate-coated strawberries. You can pick your own berries when they're in season. It is a really beautiful spot.
Fantastic, and a couple of nights there, absolutely perfect. It got us really close enough to not be stressed about, are we going to make it on time? I mean, there's no traffic in Devonport.
No.
We will be talking about the Spirit of Tasmania next week, which is great. But really, again, just another one of those amazing Tasmanian sites that, really
low cost.
Really deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. Low cost. Lots of fun. It also gave us an opportunity to get a little bit organised before we sailed back to the mainland, re-sort out the back of the truck, our MSA drawers where we were just basically throwing things in because we were travelling and moving at such a pace to bring you these amazing itineraries. So things got a little bit frazzed in the back of the truck. So it was a good opportunity to just stop, recalibrate.
Yeah.
We had some items that we donated to the local op shop.
Yes.
Lost a little bit of weight.
Look, that's another really good tip that we have spoken about before on our channels is if you're coming to Tasmania any time of the year, stop in, and you've got kids, stop in to the local op shop, get big jackets. I mean, when people donate stuff, here in Tassie to the op shop, they're generally like, big puffer jackets, Kathmandu vests. I mean, it's like the Tassie uniform, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you end up with some pretty cool gear that you can wear because the seasons and the variable in weather are dramatic because the landscape is dramatic. And then when you leave, you just give it back.
Yeah.
I mean, it is such a gift to be able to do that at a fraction of the cost.
Oh, absolutely. And not only that, but it saves so much space and weight. You don't need to be bringing all of those big bulky items over with you. We got tipped off to do that on our first trip to Tassie, and that's exactly what we did. And we did it again this time too, and it was just awesome.
Really great. And also boots, for the kids, like those sort of things, they grow out of them in like a minute.
Yes.
So it's just a great way around it.
Yeah, great tip.
Okay, let's move on to the newsroom. This week we're talking about Outback travel. Now, it is a very tragic scenario where very recently, in the last couple of weeks, there was a young couple out travelling in Outback Australia and South Australia, and the young man very sadly lost his life because they had their vehicle bogged in the mud. He left the vehicle on a motorbike and unfortunately has died. We have heard about this story, families that have travelled, if you remember last year, I think around November, the family that went across again, the Strzelecki Trek, and got completely bogged out. Now, very fortunately on day 3, the morning of day 3 for that family, they had an EPIRB or a personal satellite beacon that they were able to activate. Boom, a helicopter showed up, made a massive drop of food for them, and they survived. Having some form of communication, even when it's getting busier. I mean, we're getting into a scenario now where Australians are staying home. We talked about it last week. They're travelling out back. We stayed at campsites where I've spoke to the owner-operator on a sheep station out the back of Buckholden, out towards Longreach, Winton Way, outback Queensland. And I said to him, where's the closest camper to us? And he said, about 4 kilometres that way, mate. I mean, he's on 1 million acres. You are still incredibly remote, and 100 kilometres without any communications could be 1,000 kilometres for what it's worth. And if you're stuck, you could be really stuffed. Yeah,
and I think it's at this time when people are looking to explore our own backyard, because international travel still is so uncertain. And these outback towns and regions are screaming out for tourists to come and visit. It's all about being prepared and thinking through those scenarios that you don't ever want to find yourself in and having a plan for them. And I think making sure that you've got the basics in place, as you said, Paul. Do you have something? Do you have an EPIRB or a personal satellite phone, something that you can use in the case of an emergency? Do you have enough water? Because let's face it, we can survive without food. Not that we want to, and I'm sure, if we were going out without food for that amount of time, you would feel like you're not going to survive. But water is the big thing, and in these regions, water can be a long way between filling up points. So
absolutely, and it is the difference between life or death.
Yeah.
We actually have a little Garmin. It's called an InReach Mini. I think it costs $536 from BCF or Anaconda. It was on special. There are $300 versions of this. There's an Australian-backed company called Zolio, which we would love to check out as well. There's plenty out there, but somewhere between $300 and $600 could be the difference between saving your life. You are remote, and sometimes you're so remote that, you need that communication, 2 ways, things like that could just reconnect you and get you some help is so important.
Absolutely, yeah. I think as we're travelling in Queensland for the remainder of this year, we will do some really good education, particularly in these remote and outback regions, about how to be prepared and how to plan and, just what to think about and what to look for when you are out in these regions.
Love it. Okay, we will do that. In fact, it's a good little plug. We do have a a mini series within this season coming up in the next couple of weeks. It's a 3-part series. It's called Lessons from Our Lap Year, our figure 8 lap year, really, wasn't it?
Yes.
It'll be absolutely jam-packed, and so we've divided it into 3 episodes. It'll be like a little mini education series that hopefully can help you or help someone you know.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Okay, let's wrap it up. The takeaway for this week, we really talked about this, was interpretive signage. Now, generally, whether you go to a museum or, a point of interest or the visitor information centre or wherever it is, a location experience, there are these text-heavy, we refer to them, signage boards, and you look at all that text and you think, nah, not going to read that. And that is more often than not. I would say if you did a survey, most people will go,
I read a little bit, but no.
Look, I tell you what, if you stop and just allow yourself that 10, 15 minutes, you don't have to read all of them, but just pick a couple that might grab you. If it doesn't grab you straight away, move on. But read them, because they are generally put together by someone who's done a hell of a lot of research over many, many hours to find these hidden gems and these stories. And those stories are what stay with you. They're the things that make it richer. They're the things that Jasper, reminds us, hey, do you remember when, that guy wrote about Fagin from Oliver Twist because he'd seen the movie? I mean, it's cool.
Yep.
So, our takeaway, read the interp.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it really adds to the experience. It really enriches the experience because you are getting those stories and not just the environment.
And one more plug for the Visitor Information Centre. Go in and say hello to these people. They're volunteers generally that are born and bred locals that know the goss. They know what Mary's been up to, what John's been up to.
And they're passionate
where
and
the
they
best
want
meal
to
is.
share.
They do. They're great storytellers. So visit the VIC, the Visitor Information Centre, wherever you are in Oz. Okay, I think that is us for this week. Next week, again, the Tasmanian special, the wrap-up, everything you need to know before you go, including a Spirit of Tasmania update. Awesome.
So good. A little bit bittersweet to be saying goodbye to Tassie, but
Yes.
looking forward to getting to Queensland, hugging it out with family members, friends, enjoying that warmer weather and getting out and exploring. So much of Queensland for us to explore coming up for the rest of the season.
You reminded me, one more plug for us is to stop by our website, thefeelgoodfamily.com. There is so much free resources there. You will find our road trip itinerary e-guides, the quick ones, the freebies. We've also bundled up all of our itineraries, 160 pages. It's a bargain. Check that out, or you can buy them individually if you want to support us. Keep us rolling these wheels. We love it. Thank
Fantastic.
you. All right, I think it is time for us to say goodbye. For now, look after yourself, look after your family.
And happy trails. Good one. That was jam-packed.
Awesome. It is. I tell you what.
Like our Tassie series, jam-packed.
It is indeed. And look, thank you so much again for joining us week in, week out for our crazy family travels that we get up to. But we really appreciate you and for you taking the time. And we hope that you are staying happy and healthy and hopeful, and that you're safe and dry during some pretty crazy times here in our world.
Yes. Look after yourselves.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.